Well, a lot of you guys probably thought this would never happen, but here I am on a Royal Enfield doing a quick little test ride courtesy of Flying Squirrel Motorcycles in East End of Toronto. And I'm one of those people who had some serious doubts about Royal Enfield because I've been around for 15 years, and that's not much to some of you, that's a lot to others of you, but in those 15 years of motorcycle riding, I've seen Royal Enfield promise that they were better this time so many times over, and it was never quite, up to the Japanese stuff. Now they're saying they're as good as the Japanese. We'll see. I won't be able to really give it a thorough review, but at least you guys can get my first impressions as someone who's a bit of a critic of the brand, getting on one of the newer bikes. So essentially I should say that I'm not a critic of Royal Enfield's new bike per se. I am a critic... Easy handling. I'm a critic of some of those 500s they used to make. My opinion on the new ones is that a good motorcycle isn't a motorcycle that's good brand new. A good motorcycle is a motorcycle that 5 years after you've owned it, it's still just as good as brand new. Anybody can make a out-of-the-box good new motorcycle. The question is, how does it hold up? Do the plastic connectors start to wear away? Is the wire used too cheap and start to corrode easily? How does the paint hold up? Is it too thin, or is it too kind of thick and soft? How do the different components feel and click? Or they kind of wear out easily on the turn signal switch that you use 100 times a day, for example? A new motorcycle, we really can't, we can judge it's good out of the box, sure, but what I'm more interested in, especially because a lot of us buy used bikes, what I'm interested in is how well is it going to hold up. But for now, at least we can test how good is it out of the box if I can get around these guys. Alright. You know what? It does shift very smooth. It does feel very smooth. For perspective, I took my BMW G650 GS, which is a 650cc single cylinder motor, to the test ride. Because I was like, you know what, I should not be riding in there on a 1000cc bike, or my perception of what to expect is going to be totally off. This feels quite right for the power. Stop signs are not respected here in Toronto. So the tire size, if I'm not mistaken, is a 180/18, 190/18, one of those two. And it's not as nimble right now anyway as my Triumph Bonneville SE. And that's the SE, not the T100. The T100 has even bigger wheels. I mean, it's okay. I know that they made the rake basically where the front axle is super close to the front of the frame in simple terms, and that kind of helps with steering precision a little bit. It's all right. I think my Bonneville SE, because that model of Bonneville had the 17-inch wheel at the front, it does handle even nicer than this. And I guess my big question is, A, how's it going to hold up in 5 years? We won't know. Not in this test ride anyway. And B, is it worth the money on this as opposed to getting, let's say, a used Bonneville SE or a used Street Twin, because the SE kind of turned into the Street Twin in a sense. To me, it does feel okay. I was looking at the bike, I didn't see immediate, causes of concern. It's hard to know just from looking if something is going to pit prematurely, when you see that wear on like the down tubes or on the motor itself. There was some kind of dust from fabrication that was left over that first I thought was early signs of pitting, but it seems like it was just fabrication dust that never got cleared off, so okay. I think it's fine for in the city. I've heard complaints that the seat was too hard. It's okay. This isn't... I'm not getting any immediate red flags, which is good. Suspension is adequate for inner city riding. So usually my reviews are super organized and I have like a whole checklist, and I'll pull over partway through my review and see where I need to pick up or where I left off or what I missed. This is totally off the cuff. It's not a hard bike to ride whatsoever. You can get on and you can just start going at it. It's fine. There was a recall on... Here's everybody from the test ride. Yay! There was a recall on the front Bybri, which is, I guess, short for Bai Brembo. It's like a subsidiary, I think an Indian subsidiary of Brembo on the front front caliper. So if you've already bought a Royal Enfield, you should check up your VIN number and make sure that if you are part of that recall on the 650s that yours was already done. You know, when it's moving, it moves just fine. The throttle isn't really that twitchy. Granted, it's going to feel really smooth to me because I was on a 650cc thumper to get here. But even if I had an overall, I can't fault the motor as of right now. So that's a good thing. Clutch, I would probably, change where the kind of friction point is. Might need a little bit of adjustment. That could just be if the whoever normally rides this bike has a hand way bigger or smaller than mine, maybe. So there is a good degree of forward lean on this, which is kind of surprising because I figured I wanted to try this one over the I think the Continental. Yeah, over 5,000 RPMs. Wow, there's over 5,000 is kind of, I'm not gonna say miserable, but over 5,000 RPMs is a lot of vibration, which makes me think on the highway. I know some of you guys will think, yeah, it's not a bike made for the highway, sure, but I'm fortunate to be in a position where I have a handful of bikes, so I can be picky, and there's certain bikes I leave just for the city. This would probably be one of them. Up shifting smooth, down shifting smooth. Anyway, let's talk about ergonomics. There is a degree of forward lean on here. The bike gets damn quiet when you start to idle there. Apparently S&S, which is interesting because it's usually a Harley company, makes a lot of aftermarket stuff for this bike. You can get a kit that will kit it up to 865 cc's, and I saw that kit going for around $800 US, and then you got to do all the labor on top of that. So that's cool. If you want a nice power boost, that might help you make it more of a highway cruiser. This bike only has 53 kilometers, so far so good. It's a nice compact bike. Obviously I can't answer the question of how well is this going to hold up. The only question that I can answer is it worth double or almost triple the price of a used fuel injected Bonneville? And I think this bike, after taxes and everything, you're going to be paying twice as much, and I don't think you're getting twice as much bike. I think you're probably getting less bike. So if you can find a low kilometer Bonneville SE, I still think, you know, unless you're the type who you really care about that 3-year warranty that this bike does come with, which is cool, you know, yeah, I would probably go with the used Triumph still. And so I'll back that up with a story, 2 stories. First story will be about a guy that I was just talking to. He said he has the Continental GT version of this bike. He said 11,000 kilometers, no problems. And I said, really, no problems at all? He's like, yeah, I don't know what everybody on the internet complains about reliability or whatever, or parts quality. And I said, so nothing, not even warranty work? He goes, oh, under warranty, the front disc, where it is, there it is, the front disc brake had to be replaced because it warped. I was like, wow, disc brake warping under the first 11,000 kilometers, that seems like kind of the kind of thing people complain about on the internet, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet. I know there's a rider also in Toronto who, hey brother, rider also in Toronto who, he learned the hard way that one of the things that Royal Enfield comes with the 3-year warranty is they also do I guess like a membership to a towing service. Apparently if you're in the US, that works okay. If you're in Canada, they don't actually have contacts or anybody who knows what the heck, how things are supposed to work. So he had to pay out of pocket for towing, even though technically towing was supposed to be covered under his purchase of the new bike. So if you're in Canada, that's something to think about. Yeah, I've read reviews of the seat being too hard. I'm not finding that an issue. I've read reviews about the pegs being in the way. That's not what I'm going to nitpick on this bike. What I'm going to nitpick on this bike is how well it's going to hold up in 5 years. I don't know that... Oh, road closed. Alright, I don't know that we yet know enough to really speak to that, if we're being honest. I'm sure the fanboys will say it's going to hold up just fine, but you know it's going to hold up just fine in 5 years, as much as I know it isn't. We both have zero facts because this model hasn't been out for 5 years yet. So let's agree to reserve judgment until we can accurately do that. There are definitely reports of issues with the bike, which there is for any motorcycle, obviously. It is good to hear that Royal Enfield, you know, warranty stuff you do get support for. That bike that I mentioned of the other Toronto rider who had to pay out of pocket for towing, his entire motorcycle ended up being a complete write-off. He just had to, I don't know what ended up happening with it, but he ended up replacing the entire bike. They gave him he bought an entirely new motorcycle, or got one from a Royal Enfield dealer, I'm not really sure. So, I mean, it was good, but it also meant that he had to, you know, redo registration, pay for some of the licensing stuff again, pay for the license plate transfer, contact his insurance, switch everything over, yada yada. So not the end of the world, but still kind of, it's interesting that he had to replace his Continental GT. Oh, and just to put the story in perspective, the bike completely failed within 3 days of it being brand new. About 200 kilometers, so less than 200 miles. His motorcycle completely failed. So there are definitely examples of catastrophes out there. And you guys might be saying, oh, Adrian has a hard-on for Royal Enfield. No, I will post a link in the comments to the thread so you can read about this poor guy who bought a Royal Enfield, and literally within a couple days, it was just a complete write-off. Not because he had an accident, but just because it wouldn't start. And then apparently it was firing on one cylinder, and then they were going to try and replace some parts, and they said it's too, like, catastrophically fucked to do that. So good on the local dealer for trying to step up and help out. Yeah, woof. Horror stories exist. They exist for every brand, although when's the last time you heard about, you know, a mid-size Honda failing in the first 3 days or 200 miles. I don't know what all the buttons and stuff are here. Odometer, trip A, trip B, that's it. So you don't get fuel economy or anything. Well, it makes sense. It's a cheaper bike. My Triumph doesn't have that either. Possibly the newer Street Twins might, but different price point. So that's fair. Suspension for in the city is adequate. Just trying to think about the components. Mirrors are fairly good. I mean, I'm not really taking it at 5,000 RPMs where everything's buzzy. What's interesting is peak power is in the 40 horsepower, but peak power is made at around 7,000 RPMs, which is almost practically at the freaking red line, which means it's going to be vibrating like a complete mofo for you to make that 40 horsepower. So you're probably going to be operating a low mid 30s horsepower machine most of the time if you're in the comfort range and not just absolutely freaking squeezing the tits off this bike. Speaking of squeezing, let's squeeze through here. I think this is really where the bike excels. Special Constable, is that a real cop? Nah. This is where the bike excels, just squeezing through the city. Looking cool as fuck to people who don't know anything about motorcycles. And we'll be like, I don't know what that thing is, but it sure looks cool. If that's your style, this is the bike for you. Gotta say, I haven't been doing too many kilometers, but I've been kind of doing slow speeds, slow but steady, and I'm not really feeling much heat, which is good. I believe it is an oil-cooled motorcycle, so the fact that I'm not like scalding myself right now is pretty good. The pegs, you know what? Yeah, the pegs are a little bit in the way, but that's a common thing on a lot of bikes, not just this one. So I won't put my Royal Enfield hater hat on for that. For those who know the show Kim's Convenience, the actual Kim's Convenience store is just a couple blocks away from where we are. Has absolutely nothing to do with this, but that's cool. I think this is my favorite part about this bike. Just squeezing through everybody. And some people will put bar and mirrors on here, and I never understood those people because I think that making my bike wider is a good idea. I also don't have a clue where I'm going. I thought that the shop was on this street. I could be totally wrong. Maybe let me pull over and figure out my life. There we go. Kickstand nice and easy. Looks like it comes with a center stand too. That's good. So you got basic speedo, tack, easy to access key, standard horn, high beam, low beam, flasher. Mirrors are pretty decent. These are non-adjustable levers. So basic incandescent bulb. Fork gaiters come standard. These are some of the ugliest disc brakes, but we've talked about those already. I saw like a bunch of weird dust here that I thought maybe was early signs of pitting. I'm not seeing that, so that's good. I saw in some others there's a little bit of maybe seeping around the window, but this one looks nice and clean, although maybe there is a little bit. If you see the Triumphs, sorry, the Royal Enfields, ooh, Freudian slip there. Check this window and let me know if you see any kind of weeping going on over there. Yeah, people have said we should take a temperature gun to the suspension thing and see if it actually is filled with liquid or not. It's not the prettiest motor, mostly because of all the wires and stuff you got going on and the weird, like, 3 different tones. I don't like that you have chrome exhaust pipe and then like polished side cover casing, and then the motor itself is like gray, and then part of the cylinder is black, and then it's gray, and then it's polished again, and then it's black, and then it's green, and then it's gray. It's a lot going on here. Motor aesthetically thumbs down in terms of performance wise. For what it is, a basic, very simple 650, it's pretty smooth. I like it. Shifting gears was really smooth. Sorry this is the most disorganized and scatterbrained review I've ever done, but just trying to be totally honest as somebody who's kind of indifferent about Royal Enfields. Looks like the seat is probably a lot easier to get off than my Triumph, so that is good. Maybe some bar-in weights, can't really tell. Disc brakes front and rear, ABS. Not a bad bike. Now I gotta figure out how the heck to get back to the shop because I'm totally lost and have no idea where I am. I'm taking it for a test ride.
What size is it?
650.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Do you ride?
Yeah.
Nice. What do you got?
I don't have anything now. I had Harley's not too long ago.
Nice. Do you want to sit on it?
No.
Okay.
I already tried this one. It doesn't fit me.
All right. Fair enough.
Gave it to me and then I was like, I don't want it. And then
East. So the east is that way, right?
oh, that's right.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day. Take care. You too. Have a good one. Alright, so there you go. You meet the nicest people on a Royal Enfield. Old lady just came up to me and just started chatting me away, and turns out she's had a couple different Harleys, a Vespa, she's had a V-Star 250. Really like the old Royal Enfield. She said she sat on it, but it's not the right size for her. Very cool. Back to that guy that I told you about who said he put 11,000 kilometers and then his disc brake warped. Besides that, it's been fine. He also mentioned that he thinks the Bonneville is a better bike in every way. Just obviously you can't get one for the same price you can get this for, right? So fair enough. This guy's letting me in. Thank you. Yeah, the clutch, where the clutch lets out is just a stretch awkward for me, but this only has like 60 kilometers on it, this bike, so probably has not been really gotten its first service done. This is a fine machine. I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know that I would spend all the money on one over a Triumph, but it's fine. It's completely adequate. I wish that we had the time that I could take it out on the highway. Maybe I will post this up and ask them afterwards if we can do a repeat. But right now, yeah, it's fine. I can squeeze through places that I have no business squeezing through. Beats having an e-bike. Looks good. Old ladies stop and talk to you. You know what? That is one thing that this has over the Triumph. On the Triumph, anytime I stop, an old man comes to talk to me. At least with the Royal Enfield, I get old ladies coming to talk to me. So that's a definite plus. I'm not allowed to pass until the doors close. And can I make the light? Yeah, we can make that light. Clutch is okay. Lever needs adjustment, but clutch is okay. It's fine. It's not the fastest. It's as quick as it needs to be for in the city. You guys can see me passing a bunch of cars. I'm having no issues. Highway, I feel like RPMs are going to be friggin' buzzing like crazy. Can't really weave around with these streetcar tracks. It's a bad idea, but when I was weaving earlier, it feels okay. Once you kind of lean it a bit, it doesn't feel tipsy anyway. I guess weight-wise, we should talk about weight distribution. You know, it doesn't feel top-heavy. The center of gravity does feel fairly low. The bike is I think, heavier than it needs to be. I will post the weight up, and then I'll compare that weight to my 13-year-old Triumph that makes, 200 cc's more, a lot more power. I think the weights are comparable, despite the fact that this is a smaller displacement bike, which is also going to add to the fact of making it feel slower because you have less power to weight ratio. But yeah, I'd say beginner to advanced motorcyclist, this is going to be fine. Intermediate to advanced, you might find it dull, boring, plain, completely lacking of any particular character set that makes it easy to talk about. It's fine. That's all I can say. It is fine. It's fine. It's everything it needs to be. Mm-hmm.